Okay, remember that they are changing my voice. This video is about why America is wrong about immigration. And by America, I mean the American government, the output of the system, what have you. Point number one, there isn't a sound moral justification for the existing immigration laws, obviously, of America. So we don't even have a sound justification, a sound moral justification for the immigration laws that we have. And to this day, most people are confused about what the laws are. They don't know that it takes quite a long time to immigrate into this country. They don't know that it takes 2 years on average, according to one source I've come across, to immigrate into this country. And it wasn't even easy to find that source, mind you. Point number two, the government failed to effectively manage the illegal immigrants who are in hotels and in the street, etc. By building tiny homes for them in rural areas, putting them to work, and taxing them at a slightly higher rate. They also should have them pay rent as they can, programs. Of course, they should allow them to save money, and of course, there should be social mobility, right? The ability to kind of climb the social ladder, climb the corporate ladder, what have you. So look at these first 2 points, they're very damning. America does not have a sound moral justification for the immigration policies that they have. They don't openly discuss it. They don't say, hey, let's discuss this. Let's figure out what we believe, or let's figure out what's right, what's precisely right. Let's have our immigration laws reflect that. Number two, they failed to effectively manage the illegal immigrants that come here. These people could have helped build homes for themselves if a shortage of labor was part of the problem. They could have been relocated to rural areas. In fact, Trump's plan for the homeless, last I checked, had to do with building new cities for them. So they can think of that when it comes to the homeless, but they couldn't think of that when it comes to immigrants who typically are at least among the hardest working members of our society. It's pretty ridiculous, right? And you should see where I'm going with this. You can't go from these first 2 points to just deport them all. That is sick. And let me explain why. Bear with me. Point number three. When one factors in geopolitics, right? What's going on in the world, how countries relate to each other, foreign policies, the domino effect of how countries treat each other and what they expect from each other, the exploitation of labor here and abroad, what have you. When one factors in geopolitics, they see that the governing class, then the government, and then the American people's complicity and inaction are the factors that are the most responsible for the immigration crisis. Why is there a crisis? Because of the actions of the governing class, the government, and the American people's complicity and inaction. These are the major factors. America is a very influential nation, okay? And their refusal to consider point number one and point number two, okay, is overkill by point number three. Now, because this is important, I'm going to go over it again real quickly here. Number one, there is not a sound moral justification for the existing immigration laws. Two, the government failed to effectively manage the illegal immigrants, giving them jobs and housing and food programs. It's a lot easier to do it than you might think. And three, when one factors in geopolitics, they see that the governing class, then the government, and then the American people's complicity and inaction are the factors that are the most responsible for the immigration crisis. The factors and the groups. Point number four. So if America does not address these components in their plan, then their plan is a crazy plan. It is a Mad TV meets Freddy Krueger plan. It's like a mass murdering serial killer plan. Just like they abuse the American citizens here. Now some of you say, well, let's address this first. So address that first. When you're waging a war against poverty, it's similar to waging a war against another country. You don't ignore critical things because you want to focus on one thing. You have a wholesome approach. We can easily address homelessness in this country, child hunger, healthcare, and illegal immigrants and their needs at the same time. Easily. We can also get people off welfare and onto work easily, all at the same time. So it is like a crime against humanity to scramble to come up with an excuse to not house these people and feed them and help them, what have you. And for those of you who claim to be Christians, I suggest you read Isaiah 58 several times and take notes. Point number 5, time is of the essence. Just like with homelessness, right? 5 homeless people die in the LA area every single day. So it's a time-sensitive situation. Point number 6, America should have ended homelessness years ago. So citing that Trump intends to have many homeless people housed is not a good excuse, okay? And clearly so. For example, in one of my plans, if America had added a mere $3 billion to their budget, keep in mind that Trump added $8.4 trillion to the debt in 4 years, a mere $3 billion to their budget in the last 10 years, they could have built 1 million tiny homes, land purchases included, running water, AC, you name it. And we would have a surplus right now of tiny homes. If they added a mere $10 billion to the budget in the last 10 years, we could have built 1 million apartment units across America. So they should have ended homelessness years ago. And the same types of people who did not want homelessness to end are the same types of people who are on board with the games they're playing in politics from whatever parties they belong to. They have done things in a way that have caused this crisis and the inhumane solution that seems to be apparently coming. It must be what they're going to do. We have no reason to doubt that there's about to be mass deportations. The plan to deport millions of people after they terrorized them in various ways, mind you, that's a long story why that is, and squandered lots of money pretending that they did the best that they could do, okay, is obviously an evil plan. Keep in mind they were doing all this while sex trafficking, including the sex trafficking of children. Point number 7. And keep in mind they're sabotaging me and making it harder for me to make this video. If they're right, you'd think they would simply debate me, right? People often use the complicated or desperate situations that people's families are in to coerce them. So the more you contribute to unfair policies that create complicated situations for people, that put them in desperate situations, the more you're feeding into coercion, especially organized coercion and state-sponsored coercion, including coercion-based rape, coercion-based sex, rape. So point number 8. It seems as if the governing class, the oligarchs, etc., want illegal immigrants to go through a sort of trail of tears on the way here and to experience a deportation process that is reminiscent of shipping people to concentration camps when you consider the reasons why people are coming here. Point number 9. The absence of a sound plan to address immigration, especially illegal immigration, that involves housing and feeding them and putting them to work, is the action of waging war on the victims of the foreign policy of developed nations, including the United States of America. So that absence reflects and is, in a sense, the action Again, the absence of a sound plan to address immigration, especially illegal immigration, that involves housing and feeding them and putting them to work, is the action of waging war on the victims of the foreign policy of developed nations, including the United States of America. Thank you.